So starting with number 10, the name Kuwait actually means fort. Kuwait is derived from an Arabic word, akwat, which means fortress built near water. Until the 18th century, Kuwait hardly had any settlements, but the area was visited by nomads who would come and go. However, when drought struck the desert area, they built fortified settlements near the coast of the Gulf in what is known today as Kuwait. Moving on to talking about the currency. The Kuwaiti dinar is the official currency of Kuwait. Interestingly, it is subdivided into 1,000 fils. So 1,000 fils would be 1 Kuwaiti dinar. To compare that with Canadian money, 100 cents would equal 1 Canadian dollar. The Kuwaiti dinar was introduced in 1961 to replace the Gulf rupee. At first, it was equivalent to the British pound sterling, but today it is currently the highest currency in the world when measured against the US dollar. So 1 Kuwaiti dinar equals $4.29 Canadian, $3.26 US, and €2.78. The high value rate of its currency is explained by significant oil exports into the global market. Due to the stable petroleum-based economy, highly developed oil production and export, Kuwait is considered to be one of the richest countries in the world. Now that brings us to talk about the oil industry, which is a huge part of Kuwait. Kuwait is actually a major oil supplier. Oil comprises nearly half of Kuwait's GDP, around 95% of exports, and approximately 90% of the government revenue. Kuwait holds approximately 7% of the global oil reserves and has a current production capacity of about 3.15 million barrels per day. The Kuwait Petroleum Corporation, or KPC, has announced its intention to increase oil production capacity to 4 million barrels per day by 2020. Moving on to talk a little bit about culture. So the Sheikh Jabr Al Ahmed Cultural Center, or the JACC, known by most, is informally known as the Kuwait Opera House, and it is a prominent cultural center in Kuwait. Interestingly, it is the largest cultural center and opera house in the Middle East. The center strives to entertain, educate, and inspire the people of Kuwait, offering a range of events in music, theater, films, workshops, and spoken word. Now, the cultural center complex is divided into many different buildings, which include theaters, concert halls, music centers, libraries, a public park, many restaurants, and a large interactive water fountain. The cultural center took 2 years to complete and a budget of $775 million. Moving on to fact number 6, the world's 4th longest sea bridge is in Kuwait. The Sheikh Jabr Al Ahmed Al Sabah Causeway is a mega bridge project with an estimated construction value of approximately $3.6 billion that spans the Bay of Kuwait in 2 directions and comprises of 2 links. The main link, which connects Kuwait City with the future Silk City, and the Doha link, which connects Kuwait City with Doha and the Kuwait Entertainment City. So this project actually forms part of the Kuwait National Development Plan for 2035. The bridges are named after the late Sheikh Jabr Al Sabah, who reigned during the Gulf War, to commemorate his contribution to the development of Kuwait. It is one of the largest and most challenging transport infrastructure projects in Kuwait, as well as the entire Middle East region. The main link is the 4th longest road bridge in the world at 36.14 kilometers. Both bridges have a combined length of 48.5 kilometers. It leads from the capital, Kuwait City's free trade zone, to an uninhabited area set to become another thriving port, Silk City. Bringing us to fact number 5, where we're actually going to talk about this Silk City. The Medina Al Harir, Arabic for Silk City, is a proposed 250 kilometers squared urban area in the Subiya region of northeastern Kuwait. So apart from a free trade zone and seaport, the Silk City will have an airport, an Olympic stadium, a tower taller than Dubai's Burj Khalifa, and housing for up to 700,000 people. Now, the cost of this long-term mega development is estimated to be more than $100 billion, hence the causeway's strategic importance to the country. Now, interestingly, much of the free trade zone development will be done in partnership with China after the 2 countries signed memorandums in the past several years. The vision is for the causeway to establish Kuwait as an international trading center connecting the Middle East with the rest of Asia. Next, we're going to talk about shopping. Now, Kuwait is home to the Avenues Mall Kuwait. The Avenues Mall is the largest shopping mall in the country country. The mall opened its doors in April 2007 under the patronage of Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Sabah. It was the winner of the ICSC Gold Award for Best Shopping Center of 2013 under the expansion and design category in the Middle East and North Africa. Since it first opened in 2007, the Avenues has continuously developed and enhanced the shopping experience in Kuwait to outstanding levels. It has set new benchmarks and standards throughout the industry. It is considered to be one of the largest malls in the world with more than 1,100 stores spread over 12 districts. The districts are inspired by classical and modern architecture. They include the First Avenue, Second Avenue, Prestige, Grand Avenue, Souk, the Mall, Soku, the Arcades, Grand Plaza, Electra, the Forum, and the Garden, and parking spaces that fit more than 10,000 cars. You guys, I've been there. It's an amazing sight to see. Any store you could think of is pretty much in this shopping center and restaurant as well. All right, moving on to fact number 3, no income tax. Yes, Kuwait is among 15 countries around the world who do not have income taxes. How is this possible? Well, Kuwait is a small, wealthy country that earned its fortune through the oil industry, so it doesn't need to levy an income tax, making it a very attractive living and working destination for expatriates. Speaking of expatriates, that's going to bring us to talking about the population of Kuwait. The current population of Kuwait is 4,288,398 as of Wednesday, October 14, 2020, based on Worldometer elaboration of the latest United Nations data. Now, shockingly, 2/3 of the population are non-nationals. Expatriates account for about 70% of Kuwait's population, including 1.1 million Arab expatriates and 1.4 million Asian expatriates. The Kuwait government rarely grants citizenship to foreigners to maintain its status quo. Now, Kuwait actually recognizes itself as a very expat-friendly country as it is highly Americanized, especially in the hub of Kuwait City. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, obtaining permanent residency in Kuwait generally requires you to have either Kuwaiti relatives or formal employment within the country. Kuwait also doesn't have much need for foreign investment, so citizenship by investment is also not a possibility. And actually, all businesses in Kuwait must be officially owned by Kuwaiti nationals. All right, moving on to our last fact of today, number 1, brings us to talk about the beautiful Kuwait Towers. So in the Sharq district of downtown Kuwait City lies one of the country's most visually arresting landmarks, the Kuwait Towers. With its panoramic views and striking modern design, this group of symbolic towers has won iconic architectural status globally. They have become a symbol of the nation's prosperity and urbanization, known to the locals as Al-Abraj, translated simply to the towers. The monument's prominent location is on the Arabian Gulf Sea front, which adds to popularity among tourists and locals alike. Now, the core inspiration for the tower's design came from a balance between the modernity and tradition, with the rocket and globe form representing the intertwined nature of two fundamental ideals, humanity and technology. The main tower rises to 185 meters and is one where you will be headed when visiting the towers. It has 2 spheres, one of which is called the viewing sphere. It has a revolving viewing platform at a height of 120 meters and offers sweeping views of the surrounding area. The tower also houses a selection of restaurants which are very popular among locals. The middle tower is true to its original function and still is used as a water tower, and the smaller tower, which is designed simply for aesthetic reasons, is used as a source of electricity and illuminates the other 2 towers. For those seeking a unique gastronomic experience, the 90-seater restaurant located within the tower sphere is a fun place to dine. For another awesome experience, be sure to check out the towers at night as they light up with various designs. Up at number 10, the UAE is home to the world's most impressive police cars. That's right, Dubai's police officers are cruising around and keeping the peace in some of the top luxury vehicles. In fact, the Dubai Police's fleet of vehicles includes supercars like Bugatti, Ferrari, Bentley, Lamborghini, Camaro, Mercedes, and many more. I wonder if people get arrested just for the experience of driving around in one of those bad boys. I mean, I highly doubt it, but it's an interesting thought at least, right? You might also be surprised to know that the UAE has incredibly high literacy rates. The UAE has one of the most impressive literacy rates in the world, with a general literacy rate of 93%. Amongst women, this figure is even higher at 95.8%, and 77% of Emirati women enroll in higher education. In fact, 70% of all university graduates in the country are women, which, as a woman myself, I have to say is pretty darn impressive and certainly something for the country to be proud of. Now, we've all heard of world records, but the UAE holds some unusual world records. Of the many, many Guinness World Records that the UAE holds, no, seriously, they have so many, you've got to look them up. Now, some of the world records are really well known, such as the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest tower, and the largest picture frame called the Dubai Frame. But there are also some more obscure world records held by the UAE. For example, they hold the world record for the most dominoes toppled in a circular field, and it was 89,995 dominoes, in case you were curious, as well as the biggest cup of tea in the world, measured in at 5,000 liters. I mean, they probably gave tea to everyone that day. They also hold the record for the heaviest vehicle pulled by hair and the fastest 10 meters completed by a horse on its hind legs in a record-breaking 9.2 seconds. I don't know about you, but I definitely would have paid to see that last record being broken. And as one of the world's most popular destinations and transfer routes, it's no surprise that the UAE has 9 airports in commercial service. The Emirates Airport is one of the busiest airports in the world, ranging from total flights per minute to total thousands of flights per week. Due to the United Arab Emirates air traffic, the country consists of world-class airports classified by their services, performance, quality, and infrastructure. The biggest is Dubai International Airport, ranked as the world's busiest airport for international passenger traffic for 6 consecutive years. Some of the other top airports in the UAE include Abu Dhabi International Airport, Sharjah International Airport, Ras Al Khaimah Airport, Al Ain International Airport, and Al Maktoum International Airport. Coming in at number 6, well, 6 of the world's tallest hotels are in the UAE, and all of them, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, are in Dubai. Leading the way at 356 meters tall is the 4-star Gavora Hotel on Sheikh Zayed Road, which is 1 meter taller than the 355 meters tall JW Marriott Marquis. The SLS Dubai Hotel and Residences, the Rose Rehan by Rotana, the Burj Al Arab, and the Jumeirah Emirates Towers are also all in the top 10 tallest hotels in the world. And up at number 5, the halfway point today, the UAE turns 51. Yes, the UAE is a fairly young country. On December 2nd, 1971, the UAE was officially formed through the combining of 6 emirates: Abu Dhabi, Ajman, Dubai, Fujairah, Sharjah, and Al Quwain. Ras Al Khaimah, the 7th emirate, joined the federation on February 10th, 1972. And you may not be aware of this, but there is a building that leans more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. Yes, it's true. Abu Dhabi's Capital Gate building leans more than the Leaning Tower of Pisa. In 2010, the mixed-use hotel and office building was certified as the world's furthest leaning man-made tower by Guinness World Records. The Capital Gate building leans at 18 degrees. That's over 4 times that of Italy's famous Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, I suppose rolling office chairs would be out of the question in this glass-faced building. Although in reality, I'm sure that the genius architects who put this building together also made sure that all the floors inside the structure itself are level. At least I would hope so. We know that the world is going places with AI, or artificial intelligence, and Dubai is leading that with the world's first Minister of Artificial Intelligence. Omar bin Sultan Al Olama has held the position of Minister of State for artificial intelligence since it was created in 2017. I was shocked to learn that he assumed the role at the very young age of 27. That's quite amazing. The new minister was appointed as part of the UAE's mission to be at the forefront of the global technological revolution that, among other things, plans to build homes on Mars by the year 2117. That would be something to see. And did you know that the UAE has no rivers? Well, it's true. While the UAE doesn't have any permanent rivers flowing through the country, there are plenty of cool wadis to check out. Now, for those of you who don't know, a wadi is also known as a valley, a ravine, or a channel that is filled with water only during the rainier months, and then they dry out during the drier months. So, no rivers, no permanent rivers, but plenty of wadis. And up at number 1, we have the most important fact, I think, as a traveler, that it's populated by people of over 200 different nationalities. With a population of 9.99 million as of 2021, more than 80% of UAE residents are expats. Shocking. And they are all originating from more than 200 countries around the world. Citizens from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the Philippines make up the largest percentage of expats in the UAE. Quite interesting.
In just 50 years, Qatar has gone from a poor fishing country to an oil giant with the highest per capita gross domestic product in the world, roughly at $80,000 to $100,000. And even that's kind of an underestimate to the real wealth of the citizens of Qatar. And the citizens are about 300,000 of them with an average income of well over $400,000. Qatar has been ruled by the Al Thani family since the early 1900s, when it was controlled by the British. On July 17, 1913, Sheikh Abdullah bin Qasim Al Thani became the ruler of Qatar. At the time, Qatar's primary industry was pearling and fishing. The country at the time was dealing with widespread poverty, malnutrition, and disease from the collapse of the pearl trade in the 1920s. In 1939, oil was discovered in the city of Dukhan, but development on the field was slow until 1949 because of World War II. While the oil discovery was great, it was nothing compared to the natural gas reserve found 30 years later. In 1951, Qatar produced 46,500 barrels of oil a day, amounting to $4.2 million in revenue. The discovery of offshore oil fields led to an increase in production to 230,000 barrels per day. Then, Qatar began a slow modernization process. The country's first school, hospital, and power plant, and even telephone exchange all opened in the 1950s. Oil revenue steadily increased through the 1960s as the Al Thani family grew stronger by placing relatives in high government positions. However, oil production is not expected to remain at its peak levels of 500,000 barrels a day because of the oil fields are projected to be mostly depleted by the year 2023. But Qatar has natural gas reserves to compensate for that. Qatar's reserves of gas are the third largest in the world. Qatar's reserves are estimated to be at 896 trillion cubic feet. In the year 1971, the world's largest natural gas field, the South Pars North Dome gas condensate field, was discovered off the coast of Qatar. But the crash of the oil prices in the 1980s stopped the growth of the economy. By the year 1995, the situation in Qatar had not improved until Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani took power in a coup, and then Qatar became a very powerful force. Hamad saw that keeping a low profile could be dangerous and set a whole new direction for the country. So how exactly did Hamad raise Qatar's profile in the world? What he ended up doing was pretty big. So first, he let the US set up its regional military headquarters, the Al Udeid Air Base, outside the capital city of Doha. The partnership with the US military has given Qatar a new level of security. Hamad then went on to integrate Qatar into the global economy. He built the world's largest facilities for condensing liquid natural gas and began exporting liquid natural gas for the first time. Following that, over the past 15 years, 14 liquid natural gas plants have been built in partnership with international oil companies. In the late 1990s, Qatar entered in production sharing agreements with several international oil companies. And in 1996, for those of you who keep up to date with anything to do with the news, well, you probably know about this. Hamad launched Al Jazeera, which is a 24-hour news station that combined aggressive reporting, high production value, as well as an Islamic worldview. Al Jazeera became huge, and the purpose of this organization was really about enhancing Qatar's visibility as well as its influence. But the channel has gone on to be one of the most important broadcasters in the whole Arab world when it comes to news. Qatar's GDP has skyrocketed over the past 15 years thanks to steady oil production and high natural gas production. In regards to planning for the future depletion of its oil, well, Qatar has taken measures to diversify its economy. In the year 1998, the government built Education City, which is a huge campus that supports 6 American and 2 European universities, as well as research centers. Qatar has a sovereign wealth fund of $170 billion. Then in the year 2005, Qatar established the Qatar Investment Authority to recycle oil and gas income into other income streams. In other words, it was set up to buy a lot of things around the world and thus reduces the country's exposure to the oil price. In London alone, it owns Harrods, the Shard, the Chelsea Barracks site, the US Embassy, and the Olympic Village site, among many others. It is also the largest shareholder in Sainsbury, which is just over a quarter of the business. And check this, guys, it also co-owns Miramax Films after purchasing it from Disney with a group of other investors. The Qatar Financial Center was built in 2005 to develop Qatar's financial services industry. The country believes it can become a financial services leader for the Gulf states thanks to its relative stability and large base of capital. In 2006, Qatar passed Indonesia to become the largest exporter of liquid natural gases in the world, with revenues from oil and natural gas amounting to 60% of Qatar's GDP. But more competition was coming, with liquid natural gas production booming in places like the United States as well as Australia. And then in December of 2010, Qatar was selected as host of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. And because of that, Qatar promised to build 12 state-of-the-art stadiums that would employ cooling technology so players could escape the heat. Qatar has positioned itself as a sporting hub for the region, hosting or planning to host numerous global sporting events. And last June, it was alleged that Qatar spent $5 million on bribes to secure the 2022 World Cup bid. Switzerland is now opening an investigation into mismanagement and money laundering related to Qatar's bid. So there's still quite a bit of controversy going on there, but hey, Qatar has really set itself up powerfully to be a powerhouse nation in the world. Now, before I wrap up this video, this episode of FTD Facts is brought to you by Grammarly.com. The link is down below where you can install Grammarly for free. It's one of the world-leading softwares in improving your written English skills. So again, the link is down below where you can install Grammarly, and if you really love the software and you want even more features, you can purchase the upgrade, and that will give you all the exclusive features. So guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of FTD Facts. You guys have been awesome. You gotta check out our playlist of recommended videos. That's below in the video description. I highly recommend it, hence the phrase recommended videos. You'll learn a lot more. So yeah, keep on learning on FTD Facts. And be sure to leave your suggestions on what FTD Facts episodes that you wanna see next. Also guys, don't be afraid to follow me on Instagram. Don't worry, I won't think you're a stalker. You can keep up to date with everything I'm doing when I'm not filming these FTD Facts episodes and more. In closing now, several reports state that Qatar is the wealthiest country in the world when we look at its GDP per capita. The country developed itself based on natural gas, oil, and diverse investments around the world. There are many countries in the world which have fossil fuels, but few have done as well as Qatar to take advantage of them. In fact, countries like Venezuela, Iraq, Libya, and Nigeria became victims to the resource curse, which is when an abundance of resources leads to less economic growth and limited development. The support of the United States, as well as decades of stored reserves, have also helped to stabilize the growth and development of the country, making it now the richest country in the world.